Alright, so here I got a '09 Grand Caravan. The owner slid into a curve and bent a tie rod, so we're gonna get some of it replaced. But that was on the passenger side, okay? Look at this front wheel. The steering wheel is pointing straight right now. I don't know how well it's picking up on camera right now. This thing is completely, like cambered out. This car needs so much work up front, and they just refuse to get it fixed. They only want to fix the bare minimum. So basically, has 2 broken stabilizer links from the accident and a bent inner tie rod. So that's all they want to get fixed. But everything else, I'm pretty sure the van needs wheel bearings. It needs lower control arm on this side. I'm sure it needs lower control arm on the other side. It needs tie rods on this side, but they don't want to get any of it done. Look, this is the side that was, look at that. This is the side that was hit. So you can see how far bent the tie rod is. But, yeah, I mean, it needs wheel bearings. I looked at this car, like maybe a year ago. And then before that, it was like maybe another year before that. And every time it comes over here, I'm like, hey, this car needs wheel bearings. And lower control arms and everything else, and they don't want to get it done. It's freaking crazy. All right, so get a closer look at this. You can see the bent inner tie rod, and both of the stabilizer links are like that. All right, so let's start taking it apart. Look at this lower control arm. See the bushing inside of there? That thing is destroyed. It's why even once we fix the tie rods, both of the wheels kind of sit out like this. Garbage. I'm frustrated. Not on this car. This one's just going like normal. You know that guy with the Cadillac, the CTS, the one I just put the support bearing on? We put that cheap part because he said, oh, I'm going to get rid of the car anyway. Just put a cheap part on it. It's been like 2 weeks. He just called me saying it's making a noise again, meaning that bearing gave out the cheap one. This is what I mean. It's just, and the only one getting screwed over here is me because of the labor involved. I'm sure he's gonna try to, pull one of those where you just did it, so you should do it again for, under warranty or free or something like that, which is complete crap. Because it's not my fault you didn't want to pay dealer prices to get a OEM part. I don't know, man. Whatever. Let's see what this turns into. Alright, so I'm just about done here. I got the steering wheel straight, and just looking at the left wheel over here and then comparing it to the right side, you can see it's turning a little bit too far out. So I'm going to have to adjust that tie rod. It was hard to get measurements because the old tie rod, as you saw, was it was bent. So it's hard to get an accurate measurement. Usually I would just measure. And yes, I did try counting the threads, but when you're dealing with aftermarket parts, things change. So I'm just gonna have to go ahead and adjust this tie rod to get the wheel a little bit more straight. While I was in here, I noticed the front brake pads are low, so I asked the owner, hey, you want to get the brake pads done while it's here? And he's like, yeah, go ahead, do it. I told him, okay, it's gonna be an additional X amount of money to, for labor. And he was like, oh no, forget it, I don't have that much money to spare. And just so we're clear, I don't charge a lot of money, okay? I don't know if it's like, were you expecting me to put brake pads on your car for free? I don't understand. Do you go to work for free? You know what I mean? But, especially in winter, look, it's cold. You can see my breath. So yeah, the thing is, I can make a laundry list of things wrong on this car. This car is a piece of crap. Alright, so I'm all done with this, what is it, Grand Caravan. New stabilizer links are on, tie rods are on. Oh, listen to this blower motor. Sounds like a bearing on the blower motor. But oh, listen to the springs. That's basically the strut rotating as you turn the wheel, and the spring itself is trying to turn on like the top hat where the strut mount is at, but it's like seized or a lot of corrosion in there, so it doesn't let the spring move freely, and you get that clunking noise. Look at this. Every single light is on. And I knew it. I knew I wasn't crazy. I'm like, I told the owner, I was like, your car needs 2 front wheel bearings, if I remember correctly from the last time I saw it like a year ago. I'll go in for a test drive right now. Do you hear that? Let me try to get a little bit more speed, because obviously it's going to get louder the faster you go. Oh, transmission is shifting hard. A little bit of speed, only 25 miles per hour. Listen to this. Yeah, that's pretty bad. This car is not safe to me, man. Alright, so we are back once again with this Cadillac, the one I just put that support bearing on the drive shaft, and the owner says it's making a noise again. It's been about 2 weeks, so I jacked up the car, and it's very difficult to go look at that bearing without dropping everything. So, but I moved over the heat shield a little bit, so let's see if we can get underneath the car and have a look at that bearing. Anyway, so you can see the bearing right there, and I tried to look around it the best I can, and it does not appear to be torn. I know it's hard to see, but I'm trying to get the lighting the best I can. It just doesn't seem to be working too well. Yeah, now I did not test drive the car. You know, I just took the owner's word for it. But that's not looking like a torn, you know, the rubber in the center doesn't look like it's torn. So let me just keep looking at it a little bit longer, see if I see something. If not, we'll just take it for a test drive. Alright, so I am out test driving this Cadillac, and I'm really trying to get on it, because that's when you would hear something like this. And I cannot get it to make any noise. It certainly is not making that hard hitting noise like we had last time. So I had to call the owner and ask him what noise is he talking about. So I did hear something, but it was like very intermittent, and it was just, you know, just a little rattle or something. So I talked to the owner, and he goes, yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. He said it's not as bad as it was before. He said, but once in a while I could notice that something sounds weird on the drive shaft. So we just took a look underneath it, and to me the rubber on the bearing, you know, on the rubber boot on that bearing looks fine. It doesn't look like it's torn. So I told him, let me stay with the car, and at this point I think the only thing I can do is drop the exhaust again and pretty much double check all of the bolts, make sure everything is nice and tight. You know, I could see the noise that he's having. I could definitely see it being caused by a bolt that's backing itself out, or maybe I forgot to torque something down. You know, I'm not perfect, but I'm pretty sure I tightened all the bolts. But it doesn't hurt to go back in there and double check. It sucks, but you know, rather be on the safe side. So got the Cadillac up in the air again. I've already dropped the exhaust, and it is not torn. I've moved it. It's still perfectly fine. I mean, it's not, the bearing itself is a piece of crap because it's a cheap aftermarket part, but it's only been like 2 weeks. I don't expect it to fail within 2 weeks, okay? And it's still intact. Now I've gone ahead and checked every single bolt that had to do with the job I did, and every single one is tight. Okay, so what's the noise coming from? And I can only find one thing that could possibly be causing this noise. So let's go right up there. Alright, so that's the back of the car going towards the front, and this is where I disconnected it from, like basically like the transmission, right? Now all I did was remove these bolts and take this whole unit off as one. It never, like, these two pieces never got separated, okay? And look at this. I'm trying to get you guys as close as I possibly can. Let's see. See that? You could even hear it. And it's not these bolts because I double checked them and they are tight. So this is the only slop that we have in the system, in the drive shaft system, that could be causing this slight noise that he's talking about. At this point, it's not my problem, okay? Because I did my job correctly. Nothing was wrong here, and I think this is why if you go to the dealer to try to buy this bearing, they will not sell you the bearing. I think you have to buy the entire drive shaft, and it would have fixed this right here. What happened is, from that bearing being so bad and it just kind of flopping wherever it wants, I'm assuming that it damaged whatever joint is right here, and now there's too much slop in it. And I think that's why the dealer sells it all as one unit if you wanted to buy this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put it back together. There's nothing more I can do here. Yeah, he's either, if it bothers him that much, he's gonna have to pay to replace the whole thing. And at this point, it would not be, you know, basically the job won't be for free. I'm gonna have to recharge him because this is not my fault. I told him to go to the dealer and buy the correct part, which means the whole shaft, and he didn't want to. So if I do have to come back in here to replace the entire shaft, well, it's a separate charge. We got a Trailblazer in, and it just came in on the hook. The owner said the fan looks like it's ready to fall off, and sure enough, let's look at this. It's super loud when it's running, so it's going to need a new water pump. New belt, because the belt is starting to get eaten up from this thing moving so much. And I can't remember how long it's been, but I want to say a year and a half I put a water pump on this car. It's a AutoZone part, so that really sucks. All right, that's it for tonight. It's freaking freezing. How cold is it? Let's see. Look at that. Alright, so I am just about done with the water pump on this Trailblazer. It's got a new water pump, new belt. And I really hate doing anything on these Trailblazers that involves removing the fan or the fan shroud or anything like that, like the radiator, the water pump, etc. Right? Because the let's just call it the clutch for the fan, it is a nightmare to remove. And if it slips out of your hand, there's a really high risk of puncturing the radiator, and it's actually happened to me before. Had to replace the radiator, so that really sucks, because at that point it's just costing you money. So what I like to do is, you know, remove the bolts that hold the fan shroud on, and you can't remove it completely, but you could push it forward a little bit. And what I do is cut out a piece of cardboard just the right size and slide it inside of there to protect the radiator in case you do drop that the clutch for the fan. At least you have some sort of buffer between that fan clutch and the radiator itself. Other than that, let's go ahead and finish buttoning this thing up. Alright, so I got the truck running, trying to bleed out the cooling system. And also changed a blend door actuator. I'm not sure if I mentioned this beforehand, but it was doing one of the classic knocking underneath the dash. So it seems to be taken care of. I could adjust the controls here and no more knocking. Unfortunately, it's a dormant part, so I don't know how long that's going to last, but it's working for now. The cool thing is, since I did replace this one like a year and a half ago or whatever with a AutoZone part, so the new water pump was under warranty, did not have to pay for that, so that's real cool. Fortunately, I went to open the garage door and this just happened. So it's not a big deal. We could go ahead and remove that aluminum bracing. It looks like it's just bolted in. And I think I'm gonna try to replace it with a steel brace instead of aluminum to make it a little bit more stronger. That's tomorrow's project. Dorman. Garbage, I swear. So anyway, the clinking or knocking noise is no longer there, but not because the part is working, but because the new part that we installed is not working. It's not doing anything. And I plugged in the old one to confirm it, and yes, the old one does at least move when you control it from over here. New one is doing nothing. There's some instructions right there that say warning. It says do not plug it in to test it, because you could go for, like, basically you could make the little arm go past its specifications and you could ruin it and blah blah blah, right? So the instructions say to install it on the vehicle first and then plug it in. So that's what I did, and it doesn't freaking work. Maybe had I tried it first, so ignore the instructions, had I tried it first, I would have realized it doesn't work, and I could have saved myself the trouble, because this thing is a pain in the butt to change. So we are in the house, alright. I'm tired of being outside. I've been outside messing with this one blender actuator for about an hour and a half, and it's freezing outside. It's like super cold. I just couldn't bear it anymore. So I decided to come in the house, and I brought the old part with us so I could open it up. Now, I just want to see where it failed, and right here on the main wheel, or cog, whatever you want to call it, there's actually a missing tooth. So every time we get to that section, that's when you get the knocking sound. Now I did open this up. Don't tell AutoZone. But I did open up the Dorman unit, and it looks like an exact copy of the original one. Like everything is spot on. Like they copied it. Just all right. So here I am, checking things to try to figure out why this thing doesn't work, because I noticed when it's bolted onto the car it doesn't work, but if you take it off of the car but you leave it plugged in and you go through all the different modes on the HVAC system, it actually moves how it should. But as soon as you bolt it on the car, it doesn't work anymore. So I'm like here measuring the height of things like that. Everything checks out. Everything's where it should be. All its mounting locations is fine. But there's one thing I noticed that does not check out. All right, so let's put that right there. Put this right here. Okay. Tell me if that matches up. Not so much, right? Look at the valleys. See how wide the valleys are on the original part? Now look at the valleys on Dorman part. See how they're not as wide? So that's what's going on here. That's why the part works when it's not bolted onto the car, but when you bolt it onto the car, it doesn't work, because when it engages the teeth on the actual blend door, it jams up. And that's all that's going on. It would jam up when it tried to engage the teeth on the car, because they're not the same, I don't know what to call it, pitch, I don't know, but you get what I'm trying to say. So this piece of crap is going to get returned to AutoZone so someone else can buy it and put it on their car. And what we're going to do is just go online and try to find an original part and just wait for it to come in. Yeah, I can't believe I wasted so much time because of a crappy Dorman part. I guess that's how it always goes, right? When you put crap in, you get crap out. Alright, so one last thing I have to do on the Trailblazer is a oil change. I got the wheel jacked up here, and look at this. The whole control arm moves. This has been like this for over a year. I keep telling the owner you have to get this changed. Just keeps pushing it off. So I'm gonna try to convince him one more time. Got the oil draining, and look at all the glitter in the oil. Some sparkly oil. Trying to get a better shot of this so you could see it just floating in oil. It's crazy. Alright, so I am back with this Trailblazer, and we have a new upper control arm. Alright, so I got the two pieces separated. You can see how bad it is. Look at this. I haven't touched those bolts yet. They're just, that's how it is. How worn out that is. You can see the old upper control arm is out. That just pops right out. Now, I already have the suspension loaders. As you can see, I'm using the floor jack to lift up the suspension. I have the jack stand in place, but it's no longer resting on it. And I've already gone ahead and tightened up that bolt, as well as the ball joint. And it's pretty much all set to go. What was nice is someone's already been in here to change this upper control arm before, because on this side you could get the bolt out just fine even with this piece of metal in the way, but on this side it's almost impossible. So you can see someone's already bent it, so I didn't feel too guilty about doing it again. And I noticed this side was super tight. I mean, it took a lot of force to get this bolt out, but this side came off super easy. And if you look at what's going on here, the bushing on this side is perfectly fine. This is a bushing that was destroyed, and this is also the bolt that was loose. So I think the reason why this one failed like this, I'm sure it's old, but I think the main reason why it failed like that is because they did not tighten the bolt down good enough. And that's what caused that. But everything's nice and tight. No more play. This thing's like solid now, how it should be. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put the fender liner back on it. I have it sitting right there, and that'll be it for this. And I could just move inside of the truck to put that blend door actuator on it now. Oh yeah, she's tight like a tiger. Alright, so we are back with this blend door actuator on the Trailblazer. Actually got an AC Delco part. There's the part number right there. And here's the original one. Now with the Dorman part, when you try to mesh up the teeth, it would not go because they're obviously different teeth. But these mesh up nicely, so I know it's gonna fit. And honestly, it's like just there's a world of difference in quality. That Dorman part, like you could tell, like the plastic just didn't even line up. It's just real shitty parts. You know what I mean? And this part goes way up back here, somewhere back there. Yanny, Laurel. Alright, so that new part is installed, and I'm not gonna BS you, okay? It took me, I want to say, less than 10 minutes to put that part on. With the Dorman part, when I did not know what was wrong with it, I was out here for over an hour, freezing. It was at night, it was super cold. Over an hour with a freaking Dorman part, wasting my time. And a part that fits and works well, 10 minutes. Change the modes here, and it changes just fine. I could feel when it starts blowing air out the front vents. So the actuator is working perfectly. That's good to see. Yeah. Dorman just oh. Alright, so I'm trying to fix the garage door. I got all of that disconnected up there. Got the old piece right here. You can see it's broken off in two. I already laid it on top. I just went to Menards and picked up this piece of steel. If you're gonna do it, you might as well upgrade and make it stronger. Alright, so you can see I've already laid it out and marked out everything I have to cut and drill out. So it should line up and get this bad boy ready to go. Here it goes. Just about all set. I just need someone to give me a hand to hold the nut on the outside of the garage while I tighten the nut. Other than that, everything else is bolted up. The action works just fine. It opens and closes, no problems. And that thing is plenty beefy. Now I've gone ahead and sprayed the whole bar in that CRC corrosion inhibitor because I didn't feel like painting it, so that should hold up. It's not gonna rot away. And I took any opportunity I can to upgrade the bolts. So this is basically what was on here. These chintzy little things. This whole thing was put together with this type of hardware. And I got some beefy bad boys inside of there. So that thing is going nowhere. Sorry. That was my Tim the Toolman Taylor grunt. Alright, I'll just see myself out. Got a Grand Cherokee here. Got dropped off. Has no brakes. The brake pedal goes all the way to the floor. Just checked the fluid and it's completely empty, so I just added some brake fluid in it, and let's go ahead and pump the brake pedal, see if we can see this leak. All right, so as you can see, some time has passed. I now have the Jeep inside the garage, and honestly I cannot find a leak. The reservoir was completely empty, so we know we have a leak, right? Fluid's not just going to evaporate. Typically in situations like this, especially in older vehicles, it's really easy to find a leak, because as soon as you start pumping the brake pedal, if there's fluid in there, it's going to start spraying it out or dripping somewhere, right? But this is not the case. So I've tried filling it up and pumping the brake pedal. I'm not getting anything. I'm not seeing any leaking. Right now, as you can see, I got my pressure bleeder thingamajiggle on it, and I have it holding pressure right now. Still not seeing any leaks, right? One thing I noticed looking underneath the truck is signs like this. You see this? See the back of the tire? To me, that's indication of brake fluid, okay? And no, it's not water. It is brake fluid. It's just something, just gotta know. Something you develop over time to notice the difference between things like that. So we're at this wheel, right? And come back here. You see it's wet. If you look inside of there, there's like a puddle, and it looks like brake fluid, okay? And then come over here at the caliper. You see it looks, let me get better lighting. This down here looks moist. Inside of here looks moist, like we have some leaking going on. And if you get real close inside of there, you could see right around the seal of that piston, you could see it's wet. Now this is a relatively new caliper. I put this on here myself when I put the new rotor on. It got a new caliper from AutoZone, okay? And I think that's where our leak is at. What's going on here is the fluid is seeping out slowly, and over time it got to the point where the fluid level is just so low that you just lose your brakes. Okay, so it eventually leaked out of here. And I think that's what's going on here. There is no major leak. There's no brake line failure or anything like that. It's just a leaking caliper. Basically a crappy rebuilt caliper from AutoZone. So let me go ahead and pull it off of here just to confirm, so we could get a better look at this. I got the caliper off of the car, as you can see. See how it's wet around here? You could tell it's been leaking, clear as day. And no, it's not water, it's not snow or anything like that, because the car has been sitting for about 2 days, and you can see how everything is relatively dry. Okay, it's just dried up salt, but nothing is wet. Okay, but look at the caliper. That, my friends, is a leaking caliper. Some time has passed and we finally got a new caliper for the Jeep. As you can see, I'm trying to bleed out the brakes. Already got everything installed. There aren't any leaks at this moment. Everything looks good. I don't see the new caliper leaking. Alright, so I forgot to record the section where I put the caliper on this Jeep, but obviously it's all done. I am now test driving the vehicle. Brakes feel good, pressure feels nice and firm. As far as warranting out that caliper, AutoZone did give me a little bit of hassle because I wasn't the person who bought it. But it really helps to know the people who work there, so it wasn't too big of an issue. Everything went pretty smooth. It went on, and yeah, so like I said, the brakes feel good. All I have to do now is let the owner know, or to be more aware of the brake pedal. You know, if she starts to feel it sinking even a little bit, to bring it back immediately, and we could go ahead and double check things. There's nothing wrong with my work. It's just, well, you saw what happens to the AutoZone calipers, the rebuilt ones. So, you know, it's a possibility that this new caliper could have the same exact issue going on. So I'm just telling her to keep an eye on it. Other than that, the car stops fantastic, feels good, and that's it for this one.